Hey, this is Adrian Larsen with the Alpha Podcast. Today, we decided to jump out into Vancouver, Washington, and meet up with an old pal of mine, Brandon. He owns Gainz Gym. It's over off of 152nd.
Yep.
Is that what that is? So originally, I met Brandon a handful of years ago. I went and did a seminar at 2 gyms ago. He basically had a little spot in a little mini mall and worked with several other gym owners to kind of just get themselves out and up and going. Reached out to Brandon, we started communicating about doing a seminar, went out there, worked with a ton of cool people, and that kind of started a friendship where I'll reach out to him every now and then, check on him and his athletes, come and work with some of their guys, and just overall, Brandon has been somebody that like when I opened up a gym this last year, I had him come out and just give me his advice. I know he's been doing this a long time. He's a really smart guy, and so he's definitely somebody I try to use for information and just kind of guidance on business-related type stuff. I've worked with a handful of his athletes. We kind of joked in a previous video. You'll see Becky was getting some work done on her, and one of the seminars she yelled at me just to be funny, and it's good. He works with a lot of good people, and people that like Becky, I'll never forget her. You know, it's somebody that to this day, you know, I'll never forget her, and I try to stay in contact with some of his lifters through Facebook. Recently, Brandon had just moved from, was that like 112th?
Yeah, 112th.
112th little industrial areas. It was right next to Golden Age Iron, out to now 152nd, but it's a much bigger building, better than double the size. Very interesting is that when I came into the building last week, it's interesting to see how it's grown. At the previous spot, he had a lot of the same tools, but the gym was smaller and the layout was different, and so it was easy to overlook things. Here it's kind of opened it up, and it seems like we have a lot of new implements, or maybe the same implements, but we can use it in a bunch of different ways now. We'll do a tour of the gym. You'll see that video. Make sure you look for it. Long story short, though, if you're in the Vancouver area or even in the Portland area, you need to come check out Gainz Gym. And there's going to be a bunch of different videos that you'll see with the cool stuff you can come here and do. It's totally worth your time. But why don't you introduce yourself, Brandon?
My name is Brandon Shewbert. I've been a personal trainer / coach for the last decade. I started in Seattle, but I've spent the last 4 years in the Vancouver area, and just been trying to make everybody that I run into as strong as possible.
What got you into starting to open up a gym? You know, I think a lot of people that are definitely in the weightlifting world maybe have that idea of like, let's open up a gym, but it takes a ton of work, right? It's not something you can just jump and do. So what was the spot for you where it really was going to happen, and like what kind of got that up and going?
So for me as a personal trainer, coach, what I wanted to have was a gym, an environment where everybody could be successful depending upon wherever they came from in their previous life of athletics. And a lot of the Globo gyms just weren't set up to work with everybody. They had some really basic things, but then beyond that it was like, oh, we need a reverse hyper for this, like we need a glute ham raise for this, and it just wasn't available. And so for me, it was like, well, if you want to work with people in that way, you're going to have to create it. You're not going to just be able to fall into some gym that is the perfect fit for you. You're going to have to create the perfect fit. And for me, as a coach and as a trainer who, you know, was a former, you know, track and field athlete, I trained in lots of like substandard environments. And so for me, it was like, okay, you know, if you're going to do this for real and you're going to make it last, like put your money where your mouth is and make it happen.
Where did you, we talked before about kind of like the names that people come up with to get their gym, right? And you'll hear people say like, oh, this is a beast mode gym, and they don't really have like a significance to why they have that name. They just try to come up with what they would think is the baddest name or the coolest name.
Right.
Maybe it'd be a cool sticker on the back of their truck, right? Like that nobody gives a shit when they see it. They're like, what? That guy owns a gym, really?
Right.
Looks like he should work at Krispy Kreme. But, what's the significance of Gainz, and how did you come across that?
For me, Gainz was kind of an evolution over time. I had this high school teacher, English teacher, and he kind of allowed everybody to speak their mind and actually think for themselves, which is a big deal for, I think, any high school kid at the time. You're always told what to do. And he spoke about the physical training process, and he had this analogy about the nautilus shell, or the nautilus creature. And it starts very, very small and just slowly works throughout the whole structure of the shell and becomes bigger and bigger, and to the point where it needs a bigger shell. And so for me it was, how do I, without calling it nautilus, because we already had nautilus, right? We already did that. Yeah. So I couldn't use that, and so I was like, okay, what is a word or a phrase that means, like perpetual growth, or in like perpetual continuation and perpetual progress? And I was kind of like, okay. I played around with a lot of things, but then in my mind, like, Gainz said it very succinctly, and said it very, without a whole lot of riffraff and without a whole lot of like extra meanings. It was pretty simple and straightforward. Yeah.
Going into opening your own spot, and maybe fast forward a year or so into it, once you kind of got through some of the bumps, what did you really want to specialize in, or what did you really want to kind of leave your thumbprint on as, hey, I'm really impacting these guys in this way?
Right. For me, it was, I wanted people to understand, like, strength training is the most viable pursuit. You can chase mobility, and you can chase stability work, and you can chase lots of things, but at the end of the day, strength training gives the most back. And so whether you're doing that with a kettlebell or a dumbbell or a barbell or powerlifting or Olympic lifting or strongman, whatever that pursuit is for you, whatever flips your switch there, everybody is better able and better capable as a human being if they're stronger. And if they're stronger, they're going to be less likely to be injured, and they're going to be healthier in the long run.
Yeah. Do you specifically work with like your clients on nutrition as well as like programming for whatever type of lifting that they're trying to incorporate?
I try to refer out on the nutrition stuff, because I don't really have, like, say, an RD. So I try to refer out to somebody who's a naturopath, or somebody who is has like their doctorate in that field. Nutrition is such a big topic, and especially when you work with a lot of females, it gets very, very, very complicated as far as like what their specific issues are, and as far as getting them to achieve their goals, it becomes more complicated than I'm familiar with. And so in my mind, like, I like to think that I have a little bit of an understanding on how to make people stronger and make people better in the gym. And when it comes to nutrition, man, I really think it's worth the money to talk to somebody who really knows that thing inside and out.
Yeah, it's interesting you say that, because oftentimes I find where somebody will really go above and beyond what their expertise is in, and not that they're trying to be a know-it-all, but more just trying to be more helpful.
Sure.
And sometimes that can be negative. Yeah. I dealt with a gal. She was getting some personal training done by a pro bodybuilder. She was trying to give her some nutrition advice. Didn't realize that the young lady had a thyroid issue.
Oh boy, yeah, it's a big.
Wasn't a ton you can do until we get past that.
Figured out, yeah.
And so it ended up getting to a spot where she just kind of ran herself into the ground, overwhelmed. Wasn't seeing a lot of progress, paying a lot of money, eating a lot of foods that sometimes just aren't the most fun to eat.
Sure,
and,
for sure.
And so when you don't see that progress, you get really discouraged.
Yeah,
so,
you get really bummed out.
I think it's always good to reach out to people and kind of steer them in a bunch of different directions and help make them more knowledgeable.
Absolutely.
How many clients do you have right now that come to the gym?
Full time, I have about 15 clients that I work with on a regular basis. Some from a 3-time-a-week status to a 1-time-a-week status to people I just program for, and they just come in and knock out the programming. but right around 15.
Yeah, and so you've got a unique setup here where the members come in, they set up times to meet with you how many times a week, and if they happen to miss that time, then you kind of have like open gym time times during the day where they can come in, still have their program that you written out, but then they'll do it on their own.
Yeah, I wanted to give everybody that I've been training for the last 3 or 4 years more freedom in the next kind of like version of the gym. And so I wanted to have 24/7 access for everybody as like a non-negotiable thing. These are people that I trust around my family. These are people that implicitly trust me, and so it was one of those things where if I really want people to get better, I got to give them more opportunities to get more work done and to get stronger.
Yeah, and I think it's important. For me, I have my normal workouts, and then there are certain days I want to just go to the gym, get a 30-minute workout in, a little bit of a pump maybe on a specific area. And so have an opportunity to come to a place like this kind of on their own. This isn't packed. It's not packed where you're waiting for stuff. There's hundreds of people like in a 24-hour fitness. That's valuable, You're able to really focus on just your training.
Absolutely.
What kind of steps do you see are going to be next for Gainz Gym? I mean, like where ultimately do you want this to go?
Right now, what I want to have happen is just make Gainz Strength Training Gym like a known place in this area for people who want to sustainably make themselves stronger. A lot of people jump into powerlifting and they jump into competing every 6 months, every 3 months, every 9 months, and they figured out that it's a non-sustainable process. They get way too overtrained, they get way too tired, and they start pulling injuries. So I want to be the antithesis to that. If you can set up a longer-term structure for your training and for your approach to getting stronger, it's going to be healthier for you long-term. So with that in mind, I want to make sure that people are competing as aggressively as they can be while being as healthy as possible.
You talked about competing. You have an event coming up soon. In April. Called 9 for 9.
9 for 9. Yep.
Yeah. And so talk to us a little bit about that. What's the idea behind that?
I talked to Jack Sharp about 9 for 9. It's a raw powerlifting challenge, and for people who are in this area, or Washington, or Portland, or in the Pacific Northwest, who may have been training in the gym a long time and have been playing with squatting and bench press and deadlifting variations, but have never actually wanted to compete. For me, it was an opportunity as a gym owner to invite people into the gym and to get them an opportunity to do 3 attempts at what is for them like heavy percentages, without the fear of putting anything on the line in terms of winning or losing or any amount of tons of people looking at them or feeling not confident in what they were doing. So for me, it was an opportunity to give people in the area some time to get used to powerlifting without actually having to put money down and actually get into a federation, and to have a relaxed environment so they can like try to enjoy the process a little bit more instead of just being thrust on the platform in front of God and everybody and doing white lights or nothing.
What I find to be the most brought up question or maybe concern about new lifters in competitions?
Singlet?
I gotta wear a singlet? I gotta wear that in front of people?
Yeah.
And I think any kind of exposure you can have with people wearing a singlet,
it's huge.
Getting specifically women,
for sure.
And having them get some reps in it and understand that there are people that are just not looking at that to judge you.
No.
This is just a formality.
Yeah, absolutely.
And everybody's got to do it, right?
Absolutely.
I mean, I'm going to be honest with you, I don't look the best in a singlet.
I think it's one of those things like nobody looks great in football pants either, but they have to wear them, right? And so it's one of those deals where it's part of the standard uniform of powerlifting and Olympic lifting, and if the judges are going to be accurate with let's say squat depth or whatever, you can't have like 5 different types of shorts, right? Every pair of shorts is going to look different, and then the hip crease, like no one knows what that is. And so like if you can at least standardize that a little bit, at least it can be a little bit more honest.
I think next is just doing all nude. I mean, then there's no question.
Raw Squat Club, man.
Yeah, that's
or
right.
Raw Bench Club, like whatever your thing.
Yeah. What's the first thing that you put in your gym?
First thing that I ever put into my gym, the first thing that I ever bought as far as ever equipment.
Yeah.
First thing I ever bought was the Econo Prowler. I bought that in Seattle when I was working at Gold's Gym in Issaquah. And I didn't like the people that I was working with to spend a lot of time like trying to run on the treadmill because they weren't strong enough to run on the treadmill. And I knew they were going to get hurt doing it, but I knew they could push a prowler and not get a knee injury and not get a back injury and not pull a hammy or anything else. I wanted something where if we could get a lot of metabolic work done and we could get literally the pumps just going like crazy in a very brief time period. It actually became like the thing. I would take like a 20-minute break between like 12 and 1, like during lunch, and I would do my own like sled workout, kind of like outside the gym. And slowly over like time that I was working there, it became known as like, oh, there's this prowler workout happening with this trainer like outside the gym at this one time. And so over the time that I worked there, like just random people were showing up just to push the sled, just like random. And so we would end up like with 30 minutes of sled pushing with like 20 people just like randomly showing up and like, oh, we're just gonna do sled stuff. And you know, for me that was not a big deal. Like I was gonna be out there anyway. If people want to push the sled with me, like great. But yeah, we'd all have, you know, 20 minutes later, we'll have the wobbly legs and super cranked up muscles that we can't walk right. So I have good memories of that first purchase. And like,
that's awesome.
I think back to that, and my wife is the time, we're buying a what? Yeah. Why are you buying this? You work at a gym already. I'm like, I know, but they don't have this, and I need this.
Yeah. That's awesome. What's the last thing you purchased?
The last thing, I just bought sandbags last week.
Oh yeah. We talked about that.
Yeah, I just bought sandbags, and I haven't. I have a feeling that I might regret this one, maybe some more than some of the other ones.
Sure.
I think we're going to get a big benefit out of it, but I think the learning curve and the growing curve is going to be steep.
Oh yeah. Yeah, you're going to throw up a few times.
Right.
That's awesome. So if you had to give me some advice, right? If I came to you and said, Brandon, I'm going to open up a gym. This is the model. I want to open it up similar to you. Basically personal training, but open gym for the members, specifically the ones I've worked around for several years. What kind of advice do you give to somebody that's about to jump into that?
In my mind, like just be as educated as you can about how to work with a lot of different people. Some people are going to come to the gym and be total novices. Some people are going to come into your gym and have like a very long athletic history. Some people are going to come in and they're hurt. Like they won't tell you they're hurt, but they're hurt. Like they have serious injuries, and you have to know how to help them and help them get better with the injuries that they have. So for me, like the big thing is like you got to meet people where they're at physically, because we can all just program anything we want at any time, but it doesn't actually help the people if we're not meeting those people exactly where they're at. Yeah.
Perfect. Any plans on doing a competition specifically for yourself, for your members, anytime soon?
I like to send people to the competition in December in Newport, the USPA meet, the regional one that Downing's gym puts on out there. I like that meet a lot. I like how it's run. I like how tight they run it without being ridiculously idiosyncratic about the lifting.
Yeah.
Like in my opinion, it's probably one of the best meets in Oregon that people do on the regular.
Yeah. I always enjoy going out there, and specifically for the one reason at the hotel, the hallmark that it's
awesome.
It's a nice hotel.
It's awesome.
So if you spend just the whatever $30 extra and get the suite, it has a hot tub in the room.
Oh man.
And so I spend that extra $30,
awesome.
right? You open up the sliding glass door, you get the fresh air coming in from the ocean, and then you're sitting in a hot tub. Yeah, and I can't tell you there's nothing out there that beats that.
It's hard to beat that, man.
And then a couple years ago, while I was down there, somebody said, "Hey, you have to go to Nana's, which is a restaurant just a few blocks away from the hotel."
Oh, I haven't been there.
Oh my gosh.
Is it good?
Oh my gosh.
That's the thing. Okay,
Oh my gosh.
I gotta go.
So there was one day there. This is not a joke. I ate 7 Reubens in one day.
That's awesome.
Because it was, I don't know what, they're the best, that's the best sandwich
awesome.
I've ever had.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
I love Reubens. I'm gonna have to do that.
Yeah,
That's awesome.
it is. Nana's,
Okay.
you can't forget
Nana's,
it.
okay, I'll get it. I'll get it this next time with Brad.
So we're gonna take a tour of the gym and kind of get a feel for all the cool stuff that we have here. I strongly suggest you come in and check out Gainz Gym, and just for the sole purpose of all the cool implements that he has here, you can do just about anything. You'll check out in one of the videos, the tour of the gym, how some things have multiple purposes, and he's specifically trying to get the best bang for the buck for the square footage he has. Yep. And like I said, you check out that video, I think you'll be pretty impressed. So if you're around in the Portland, Vancouver area, come up here, let him stick the ex-wife on you, let him work some of his magic, and then pick his brain on programming, get a membership, let him work with you a little bit, and see how much you progress. I think you'd be pretty happy up here. How can people get in touch with you to get into the gym and get going?
GainStrengthTrainingGym.com is the address on the web. B Shewbert on Instagram, and then you can look up Gainz Strength Training Gym on Facebook as well, or you can email me GainStrengthTrainingGym@gmail.com.
Perfect. Yeah, make sure you come check this out. This is a very unique environment, and you would be very disappointed if you never came and at least experienced this once. So make sure you come check it out. Check out the other videos with Brandon and I where we do some work on my rear delts. We also did some work on my low back, and then we also did a tour of the gym. Made fun of my son a little bit, and then we also just checked out some of the cool implements that he has and how we could incorporate them in many different ways. Thanks.